Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my channel, and today in this video we are going to create the create form of delivery, which is the entity that we just created in our previous video. So those of you who are new to this series, I'll just give you a background. This is a project management tool where we have some integration with GitLab so that the issues are captured on this application. There is a concept of client, and client has projects, and we can see inside a project all the issues. We are able to track time of an issue, and right now what we are trying to do is have deliveries will have estimates, and those estimates can be mapped to issues. For more details about this entire concept, you can go to this particular ticket, which is issue number 17. I have this diagram which will clearly explain you things, and you can also look at my previous video where I have explained everything. Now, to get started with the create form of delivery, what we will do is first of all create our tests and work through that. However, the only two things that I have done is created the form in advance. So this create.blade.php, this form I have already created so that I don't need to spend time on the markup and stuff. And for this form, there was an additional component that I had to create, which is input of type date. So right now we have text, password, and date. Okay, so with that thing in place, let's start with our first test, which will be inside the page response. And we will expect that when we go to the create form page, it gives me a status code of 200. So my test's name is shows the delivery create page. I'll create a project through the factory, and I will also act as a logged in user, and then I'll go to that particular route. Now the route for the delivery create will be deliveries.create, which obviously is not in place right now, and I know that it will need a parameter called project. That's the reason I created that factory method. Okay, now with this, obviously this is going to fail if I run that because I don't have that route. So the first thing to do will obviously be, first of all, create a controller. I'll just close this one. So this is my controller, and I'll go to my web.php, and then like I have my project slash issues in here, I'll have one more. By the way, I need to refactor this. I'm thinking of not using the project ID, but rather the normal ID. I'll do that later. But yeah, the URL here will be deliveries. And obviously the controller will be the one that we just created. Now, additionally, one thing which I would like to do is say we are going to handle the create, the store, and the index for now. Okay, the index is something which we will handle in the next video, but yeah, it's pretty soon, so I'll just keep it like that. Okay, so this is done, and now if I run this test, ideally it should pass, and it does. So basically right now my page is loading, although it is not returning anything, but yeah, it does do that. All right, so I can close this test, and now the next thing that I'll need to do is create a new test, which is delivery create. I'll just get rid of this. And in here, what should be our first test? The first test will be that it adds a delivery for the project, which is our happy path. Now in this, obviously we will need a project from the factory. So I'll just create that instance. And I will also need to send some data for the delivery to get created. Let us quickly look at the migration of delivery. So obviously I need the project ID. That is something which we can get in the controller from the route parameter. So I don't need to worry about that. Owner ID, I'll get the authenticated user's user ID. The title descriptions are something that I need to pass. Start date, end date. Is complete is a Boolean flag, which during the creation obviously will be 0 because it will not be complete. I'll actually add that as a default value. And yeah, these things can all be actually defaulting to 0. So my creation becomes a bit easy. All right. So why don't we then mock that data? No, I don't need that. So yeah, title. Okay, so this is my data that I'm going to send. Title, description, start date. Start date is now in a format of YMD. End date is now plus adding 4 days to it, random, and then the format again. Okay, now what do we need to do? We need to, as a logged in user, send this data as a post thing to the store URI and expect that the database entry is created, right? So here I have my acting as this user thing. Then I'm making a post request to deliveries.store. I'm passing the project as the parameter and the data that we just created. And with this, I can assert, and my database has this is my table name, and I'll need to pass data, which literally will become the where clause. Okay, I'm thinking, why don't I think no, that's fine. With this in place, I should be able to create the entire code for my controller. Now, obviously, this will not work. So let's start putting things inside our controller. So the first thing is the validation. So I have title, description, start date, end date. These are my validations. Title is required, description sometimes, minimum 3. Start date is required, date format, end date required, date format. With this in place, what I will do is create the delivery model. I mean, I'll insert it. And in here, I have project ID, owner ID, title, description, all these coming from here. But you can see I'm taking the project from the route parameter. Okay, I'll get that. And once this is created, I think we can successfully redirect the user to the deliveries index. So I'll just do this. And the only small little change that I will need to make is the create form is not visible as such. So I'll just add that. So I'll return view pages dot deliveries dot create with project. So with this done, first of all, if I go to my browser, I'll just show you that things are working. So project slash 22 slash create. As you can see, we have the form where I can create a new delivery. Okay, so let's just say, by the way, I already have the database. So if you see in the table, I have these two entries as well. Why don't we create a sprint 3? The end date for that is 19th sprint 2. So why don't we create one which is sprint 3, just sprint 3 work, something like that. It's 19th, so we can start it from 22nd and make it till 3rd. And if I hit save, it is taking me to the index page, which is fine. We haven't created the index page, but let's look at the database, and we have created this entry. So that's pretty much the happy path that we were testing. If I now run this test, okay, it is failing. Why is it failing? Because of the how do you say, this is the format which is creating a problem, and I can do one small little thing, which is cast. So I'll go to my delivery model, and we have cast where I'm saying this is date, and additionally what I can do is say this is going to be in this particular format, and with that it is passing. So yeah, our happy path is working. Now it's all about testing the rest of the cases which can possibly happen. So one thing which I need to test is that once the delivery is created, so I have again this project, this data, actually I don't need this parameter, title, description, and all those things, very similar to our previous test, right? And if I go to this route, I am asserting that I'm redirected to the index page. So this is one thing which we ideally should test, because in our controller I have that rule. Okay. Again, this will pass. There's no problem with that. I need to test that the fields are required. In my case, the title, start date, and end date are mandatory fields. So in here I have requires all the fields, and I have this. So project acting as, and then if I send an empty array, it will have errors in my session. So that should also work, right? And then the last one is, just because I have a dependency on the format of the date, how they should be, I felt a test will be required where the start and the end date needs to be in proper format. One more reason for that is on the front end, if you see it, I'll show you in the controller first by breaking it. So DD request all, and I'll put everything just like that. So this is the format that I'm getting, Y, M, and D, and I want that to be consistent. That's why I need a test for that. Okay, because if that doesn't work, then our code will break. So we should have a test. So again, I create a project. I have my data. Project ID is not required, acting as this, and then I send the date in wrong format. One is DMY and one is MDY. Obviously, both of them are different from the format that I need, and I'm asserting that the session has these two errors. Right, so with this in place, I should have all the tests passing, 116 tests, and everything looks fine. So that's about it, guys. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. In the next video, we will create our listing page, which is going to be a very straightforward thing, but yeah, go through that so that it becomes second nature on how to create these simple CRUD screens. If you like this video, then do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.